Okay, you still got 529. That's what I got.
Still good.
Good. Are you ready?
So you're not charged.
See?
Yep, we're ready, Jen.
You're on, sir. Go ahead. Take it away.
Call the meeting to order. Jen, will you take roll call, please?
Commissioner Waldner.
Here.
Commissioner Johnson.
Here.
Commissioner Corbett.
Here.
Commissioner Phil.
Here.
And Mayor Dennert.
Here. We have the agenda in front of us. Do I have a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved.
Second?
I got a motion and a second to adopt the agenda. All in favor, signify by aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carried. Seeing nothing under appearance and acknowledgement, does anybody want anything taken off the consent calendar?
Motion approved consent calendar.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor, signify by aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carried. Under unfinished business, it is close to 5:30. We'll open up the public hearing on 2018 sidewalk improvement repairs assessment rolls. Chad, did you want to?
I filed these assessment rolls with Ms. Eimers. What was the date on that? September 4th. I believe the following Monday, those were acknowledged by the City Commission, and then you passed a resolution at that time. And from that time, Jen and her office had accomplished multiple steps, including, I believe, letters, and maybe I'll just step out and let you talk about what's happened since then. I'd be standby for
Sure.
questions.
I certainly can. Right now is a public hearing for any comment for the improvement and repair assessment rolls that we will discuss here under new business with the resolutions. The resolutions will be the last part of the process. I can share that as of 5 o'clock, the last deadline for payment, or this deadline for payment was at 5 o'clock today. Under the sidewalk improvement, we have got one property yet to pay and or be assessed for a little over $4,000. Under the repair improvement, there are several properties still needing to pay a little over $7,000.
Total?
Total. 4,000 on the improvement, a little over 7 on the repair improvement. There will be, after you adopt these forthcoming resolutions, there will be one more letter sent out. And as per the resolutions, they will have until October 30th to make a payment which will not include any interest. And then from there, we file them with the county auditor to be assessed to the property taxes, with property taxes.
Are those properties, have they been taken care of by the city?
We accomplished the work. In some cases, the landowners requested us to. In some cases, they just ignored it. In the repairs I'm talking now, those are smaller typically than the new sidewalk. So if what you mean by is have they been taken care of, they've been installed. Sidewalks have been installed in these repair locations, and they're all addressed.
Yes. And actually, under the repair improvement, there are 6 properties. So that $7,000 totals from 6 different properties.
So how many? Yeah. So there was how many before? 1, 2, 3. 16 before. So 10 have come in and paid since last time. Is that right?
Yep.
So the letter you'll send out will ask them to take care of payment by October 30th?
They have one more chance to pay, yep, until October 30th at 5 p.m. Then, that next day, we will send them over to the county auditor. Yep.
Okay.
You have any more comments on the hearing? If not, I'll close the public hearing and move down into new business under number 1, resolution number 2019-24, adopt assessment roll and levy assessment for sidewalk improvement 2018.
Any other questions, gentlemen, on those resolutions?
I'll make a motion to approve resolution, new business number 1.
Second. I got a motion and a second. Any further comment, discussion? Not seeing any. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carried. Number 2, resolution number 2019-25, adopt assessment roll and levy assessment for sidewalk repair improvement 2018.
I'll make a motion, we approve resolution 2019-25, adopt assessment roll, levy assessment, sidewalk repair improvement 2018.
Second.
I got a motion and a second. Any further comment, discussion?
I guess I'm going to have to ask for clarification on this, if I may.
Yep.
We're assessing for 18?
Yeah, the repairs that have already been done.
This is sidewalk improvement 18.
Those are relative to the hearing we had just a moment ago.
Absolutely.
Okay, excuse me, I was thinking,
Down at the bottom, you're going to
Yeah.
start talking about 2020,
exactly,
2019, excuse me. Yep, so
about 19.
later on in the agenda.
Thank you,
is 19.
my timing was
This is
off.
right.
I was having trouble with this to come up, and through my frustrations, I was just not. Thank
No
you.
problem.
Okay, great.
Seeing no more comments or discussion, all in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carried. Number 3, authorize mayor to sign agreement, U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, Section 22, Planning Assistant to State Floodplain Alternative Study. Chad.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Included in the agenda packet is a letter dated October 29th from Roy Lindsay Jr. This was signed, authorized by the commission to submit a request to the Corps of Engineers for this study. Also included is that agreement, multiple pages, and then a scope of work proposal for the agreement. And then thirdly would be a information sheet titled Section 22 Planning Assistance to States from the Corps of Engineers. And so what this is a follow-up to a joint city-county study that was accomplished during the years after the 2012 flood. I believe it was commenced about in the fall of 13, and was officially presented to you by the Corps in May of 2016, some of the results from that study. There in about the same time, there was another effort embarked upon as a kind of a cooperative effort with Lake County Corps of Engineers, FEMA, DENR, and such, called the Silver Jackets program that accomplished what I refer to as a non-structural assessment. I think that's the name that we had for that, to also analyze some options available or that might be able to be looked at as far as instead of a large structure being built near town, to options that might be able to be afforded to landowners to fill in basements, raise houses, and so on. But there was a separate presentation on that. They sort of merged together because the main point contact from the Corps was on both of those. But what's before you today is what I would call the next step to this effort, which would be taking, if you look at the scope of work, it's going to basically use what was developed in that Section 22 study, the joint city-county one, which extended the study areas beyond what the 1995 Banner study did. It studied, at the Corps' recommendation, it expanded the study area and updated some of the models and new information, in part using the 2009 flood map from FEMA and the hydraulic and hydrology behind that. So we're taking that information and evaluating some of the alternatives available to prevent flooding. Basically, revisiting some of the recommendations that were originally provided in the 1995 plan, and which at that time, and probably still today, would be the most valid to help reduce flood risks, which would be the large detention dam north of town, another one west of 81, and then the third project in those recommendations from 95 was to modify some structures throughout town. Most of those have been completed and addressed, the structures throughout town, with the exception of the railroad structure. That's one is specifically mentioned in this scope of work you may have observed. In addition, there was in 2018, shortly before this letter that I referenced earlier was sent, the commission had approved budgeting $50,000 for this work after visiting with the Corps and talking about the scope of work and the issues we wanted to review, which were recommended, by the way, by the LEPC subcommittee after the 2012 flood. The Corps developed a scope of work, did some cost estimating for their folks to do that, and it was about $150,000. We would pay half of that. And so $50,000 is in the budget for 2019. Either we would have to come up with another $25,000 for our share in 2020, or Mr. Corbin and I have been in contact with Eastern Dakota Water Development District and some initial contact also with Lake County to try to ask those folks to be contributors towards this effort as well. Perhaps being able to achieve that entire third, the balance of it from them. We're optimistic, but
I'm actually going in front of the county, assuming this goes well here, and asking them to provide some financial assistance for the local share.
and so that's what this is. This will give you all some information so that we can see what some of the updated costs are, some of the more current estimates of effectiveness, if you will, what the effects there may be on the floodplain, and among other things. One of the other significant things that I think would be important is this could lay the groundwork for another option for the Corps that the Corps has recommended. If some of these cost-benefit analysis turn out well, including some preliminary feasibility reviews, this may show that this type of a project, the ones that we might want to do eventually, might qualify for what the Corps, they have a program called a Section 205, small flood damage reduction projects. It may qualify for that in the future, but this work that we're proposing here today was recommended by the Corps to be accomplished first to determine the next one. And that project, I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves, but that's actually, the next one would be funding for construction.
Actual work.
Correct, yes, which,
And they won't allow us to do that unless we do this first.
yes, more or less, yes. So, there is some local cost shares available. How we may be able to leverage other funds from other entities remains to be seen for that future one, if it even all comes to pass. But we're trying to keep going in a good direction, I guess. With that, I'd be happy to try to answer some questions.
So that we're not lost here with the public. We're looking to fund this study. That's where we're at.
Correct. This item on the agenda would approve signing the agreement to commence the study. Yep. And most of the 2/3 of the funds are already allocated in the budget. The other third we're short, but the Corps did advise that we would only, how the Corps does it is you provide the funds up front and they draw them down. So they had indicated that 50,000 could be turned over, they could start already this year. And then during the budget process, if the other 25's in there, we would turn that over at some point in 2020.
will we, Chad, have to pay the full 150 and then be reimbursed?
I don't
Simply
believe,
states here, plans are projected to be 150 with the government's share to be 75. Will we have to front that 150 and then have a reimbursement type process?
I don't believe so. I believe we pay the full 75.
Thank you.
Either from our own resources as a city or whatever other resources we might.
Correct.
They just want a local, non-federal.
Contribution. I only asked that because Mike mentioned the next thing is we begin doing something. First, we have to have the study.
Correct.
I'm assuming they'll use data from the last study.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
You know,
Yeah. That's what it.
We're not coming in and starting all over from shovel one.
No, that's a good question. Actually, when we first approached them jointly after the 2012 event, we wanted to jump in and do this then. And they said, well, time out. We need to do some interim work before we can get towards evaluating these alternatives. And so that's when we commenced with that partnership project with the Corps, or excuse me, with the county at that time, to update and expand the boundaries of what had been looked at in 1995, basically.
One of the things that's difficult
For citizens, including myself, is when study, we look, and nothing ever happens. And I want to say these things to you guys and here at this table so that those who are going to be looking at this with us are citizens of the county, citizens of Madison, know that we have to look, but we're going to use what we looked at before as well as some more stuff and make a decision about how we can work this out. And that it isn't going to be just more study, and then nothing gets changed or gets done. And I'm not saying, it's not criticism of anybody, it's just wanting to clarify that we are trying to move in a direction to prevent some of the things that have happened to us here
Can I ask a
recently.
question? Or do I have to sign that paper up there?
Well, you can come up.
How many studies do we have to go through before this town finally does something?
I think that's what I'm trying to say,
Yeah.
in a way.
I mean, we keep paying for studies, out of the tax dollars, the taxpayers' dollars. But these studies only go that far.
Would you state your name? Could you state your name for the?
Talitha Hepler?
Thank you. Talitha, one of the frustrations for us, and it's not a frustration, it's just a part of the rules, is the Corps of Engineers that's in charge of waterways, and we have to work with them to get anything done. So it's somewhat of a frustration for us too, but on the other hand, we're partners with them.
Right.
So we'd like to get partnered up as fast as we can and get this going again, so that people know something's happening and can see something happening.
Because all the waterways, I mean, out in the country, nobody oversees, knows that the farmers have taken out the sloughs, the natural waterways.
Couldn't agree
You
with you
know,
more.
I guess it is a frustration because Corps of Engineers is a part of this. But they aren't part of that the county allowed those waterways and natural ways to be taken out. That's where I guess my frustration comes,
Thank you.
especially seeing this year, is all of the natural waterways that have been taken out of these fields with the drainage.
Or
You know,
altered, yeah.
So, okay,
Thank you.
that was my question.
So this phase of the study, we sent the letter about a year ago, right?
Yeah.
October
29th,
2018.
yeah.
Now it's time to say, yeah, we want to move forward.
And if we want to get any help from them in the past or in the future, I mean.
So
we
the
obviously
section
have
two-
to have this.
Section 205, they provide 65% of the cost. Is that what you were saying earlier?
The design and construction cost is 65%, 35% project sponsor share, excuse me. Yes. We would have to provide, just reading from another information sheet available online and such. And we've talked about this back when the presentations were made in 2016 as well. For the past is they talked about this. We would have to acquire the lands and such, but a big part of what this ongoing one is to just update the cost. You know, back in 1995, just for the large dam north of town, it was 1.75 million. You know, so I don't know what that would cost now. I suspect it would be
More.
significantly more, you know, and then there's also some other coordination some benefits we might afford if we pursue this with the Corps of Engineers, with some of their multi-jurisdictional coordination with other agencies, FEMA among them, and so on. There's just a lot more questions than answers, I would say, right now.
So-
Before we could just proceed with trying to,
I understand.
you know, try to do something.
Say we just decided to put a retention dam up, could we do that without the Section 22 study? Or would the Corps stop us?
I would say you would have to have some certain level of analysis to be done, and updating of this report in many aspects, and then you would have to, because among other things, for some of the permitting that you'd be required, you'd have to have through, whether it's the Water Management Board, DENR, and some of the others, and then ultimately, you know, if you're going to modify your FEMA floodplain, you need to have that analysis squared away so you can receive the full benefit, so to speak. Because one of what I alluded to in reference was the shrinking of the floodplain. And if this all can come to pass, not only could we receive the protection of a larger structure, but there's a separate subsequent step through permitting, through FEMA in particular, where you would actually shrink your floodplain. That's sort of a two-step process. First, you've got to build it, make sure you build it right in accordance with FEMA standards and so on. Then you have to show them, document it, built correctly, among other things, and indeed the discharges will indeed shrink the floodplain. And then you have to go through that process to amend the floodplain.
So what you're saying is, if we built, hypothetically, if we built a detention dam, okay, with FEMA somehow, or with the Corps,
Correct, yeah.
Or there might be a chance that we could go back and achieve documentation that shrink the floodplain, makes it smaller.
Absolutely. That's what I said. Not so
As well as
importantly.
protecting our.
Yeah. First thing you'd receive is the protection.
Yeah.
You know, you'd receive, so the flows would be smaller. There'd have to be some separate processes through some permitting and so on, and map amendments to actually shrink that floodplain. Of course, we all know what that means. We're the size of our floodplain. You've seen those floodplain maps, you know, and that would help. There are some newer things that I'm not as up to speed on or prepared to talk about at this point in time regarding, I believe the Corps looks closer at, Brad may have some expertise in this too, with levees and berms. They scrutinize those pretty closely, so you want to make sure this is all done properly, I guess you could say.
But those would be part of that study though, too.
Absolutely. I've talked with them
Possibility.
constantly about that. I said, whatever we do here, I want to be able to take that analysis, include it in our application, essentially, you could say it that way, to FEMA to amend the floodplain. Yes.
Would this also then, like 95, where for whatever reason, this went to a vote? Will this won't go there, will it? It'll just happen if we can.
The study won't go to a vote.
No, but if it's approved and what, like in 95, we did put this up for a vote, and it was voted down. And the most people that fought for that, to get it voted down, were the people that weren't even in the floodplain, you know? And so this, if it is allowed and to be built, will it go to a vote like it did back then?
I would,
It probably will, but I feel like back in '95, we were looking at it as once in a 100-year event, and now it looks like it happens every 8 years, so.
Yeah, true.
That would be hard to predict.
The
but-
short answer is it sure could.
There we go.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
it's
I think
legally
that's
it
what
could,
said,
yes.
yeah. That's what
So, yep. But I'm, with this study, and I've been involved in this thing, it's been a lot of years on this, right, Chad? But, again, to give us options and ideas that we can go with, and then we can start looking for money, whether it be from the Corps, whether it be from bonds, quite honestly, straight from our budget, whatever. And obviously, if they're inexpensive, then let's at least start chipping away at those. Let's start doing the things that we can do and try to keep up with them year after year after year. And the whole flood mitigation it's a very, very complex issue, because anything you touch affects everybody downstream, and you have to be so careful. We have a historical Memorial Creek that goes through town. We have to be careful with how we change that if we would, or anything else. So it's not an easy issue by any means.
But it seems what we're saying here is that Corps is our partner. And they may not always move in the direction or as quickly as we like, but they are our partner in this. And we need to be on that way.
I would also go a step further, Kelly, even to say that not only are they the partners, but to a large extent, they are kind of a partner who doesn't have a dog in the fight either. So they can come in with an unbiased look at this, and they are the experts. I mean, if not themselves, they bring in experts to do that as well. So
They're the regulator to some extent too.
Yeah.
So
I will make a motion that we authorize the mayor to sign agreement, U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, Section 22, Planning Assistant to States, Floodplain Alternative Study.
Second.
I got a motion and a second. Any further comment, discussion? Not all in favor, signify by aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carried. Move into number 4. Authorize mayor to sign application, South Dakota Department of Environment and Natural Resources State Water Plan. Chad?
Yeah, I can talk a little bit about that. I didn't have a chance to print it out, but I think Jen sent it earlier this evening. Yeah, in the agenda packet. Because it really is just 2 pages, correct?
It is.
Yeah.
The rest was not, the initial application did not all have to be completed because we were not applying for water money. Drinking water versus. Go ahead.
So I'll try to hit some high points, and then Commissioner Corbin or Director Lawrence can add to it, or even Mayor Dennert, he's been in some of the meetings as well. But this is a funding, or to get on the state water plan. This is a requirement if we're going to request funding starting in 2020, in January 2020, and it's for the portion of our rural development project that deals with sanitary sewer and storm sewer systems. In particular, correct me if I'm wrong, I think we were talking about phase 1A.
I thought it was
It was
1B.
1B.
Excuse me, 1B and 2.
Yes.
1A we're self-funding. And so we are planning to try to apply for those funds in the January meeting. There may be also some, for lack of a better way to describe it, some competing applications to other funding agencies going in around about the same time. But we've done some analysis and prepared a preliminary draft. It's more final than not of a preliminary engineering report in coordination with Banner Associates, and then that will ultimately be utilized for the final funding application. There'll probably be 2 of them. One, because among other reasons, there are 2 separate funding sources to pay back fees. One would be general fund for any storm sewer improvements. One would be sanitary sewer fund for any sanitary improvements. And so there'll likely be 2 applications go in for that. But this is really just to get on the plan. We got to do this to let them know that we want to really apply that coming up in January. So I kind of glazed over a lot of parts. If there's anything at all you guys want to add.
So we have a deadline of October 1st to get on the
Yes,
state
we do.
water plan for this.
Yes, we do.
This is a little confusing, I'm going to be honest with you, because we might not move forward with this, because we're also going to put an application in for rural development money, and if we get suitable grant money for that, this is just going to go away. If something happens with that RD thing, we know we can get money through the state, through SRF. It's typically lower interest rates and shorter term, so some people like that. But I
And
like,
this is a formality, we would just call this
Yeah.
a formality to be eligible to even apply later on this year.
And we've greased the skids with the state that we can take our PER that we did, the preliminary engineering report for rural development, and use it as our plan in lieu of a new updated, water, or in this case, wastewater plan. And so we've got that done also. So we should be able to take one document, use it for both purposes, do parallel processing, and see what we get for the best deal.
we're making our lenders compete for our business.
But we're not in shorts.
Or making us an option to,
Mhm.
which is better for us.
You can put it that way too, Commissioner Johnson. With that, I'll make a motion to authorize the mayor to sign application, SD Department of Environment, Natural Resources, State Water Plan.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further comments, discussion? Not. All in favor, signify by aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carried. Number 5, authorize mayor to sign service order number 3, Banner Associates, Inc., sanitary and storm sewer. Chad?
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Your Honor. Included in the agenda packet is the service order that you referenced, several pages there. This is also related to the rural development project, and as I had mentioned a few moments ago, different phases. This is actually for phase 1A of 1A for the sanitary sewer and the storm sewer design and construction administration. As I mentioned, we're going to try to self-fund that. We've done some preliminary review. Mr. Lawrence and myself, Ms. Heimers, and our group believe that can be done through our second set funds, among other funds, the specific project-specific funds. And so this phase 1A will be bid earlier. That's the first phase. Then the parts of the project, the rural development project, which will need to utilize, which essentially we cannot self-fund. In other words, we had utilized these grant that we just approved applying for phase 1B and phase 2. And so there'll be a separate work order for that. That all has to be crafted in a way that's suitable to our funding agencies. Rural development being one, that's the one we're working with on the water side. But this one, it can be a little bit more simpler and a little bit more straightforward, and that's what you see before you. This allows us to try to meet that February bidding deadline, which we were looking for to meet for that. You may recall we have our water funding mostly lined up. It takes a long time to get things reviewed through the rural development office. We think we're really close. These plans actually are quite far along. We've had multiple design meetings throughout this year already to make sure that those are progressing satisfactorily. If we can just get some things taken care of with rural development, we should be on track to meet that deadline. So one last thing to draw your attention within the document itself, you see on the second to last page, it talks about service order 1, service order 2, and service order 3. I just wanted to say briefly, service order 1 was the non-participating, what we referred to it as non-participating, or when we first started this project, this was the portion that was not above the water main, basically. What we have referred to in the past as the balance of the street, because the portion of the street over the water main was eligible for RD funding as part of the water main project. So that was service order 1, was for the balance of the street. We weren't seeking any funding from anybody for that part. Service order 2 was to evaluate some of the information that HydroClean provided and to prepare the preliminary engineering report, which actually is going to be an attachment to what we're submitting to DENR as part of the application you just approved. Service order 3 is actually for the design and construction administration for 1A only. That gives you a little bit of a sequence of events. So back up, get going here. So I'll pause there and stand by for questions, or if there's anything that I was going too fast, or just say very clearly that Director Lawrence or Commissioner Corbin can clear up, or Jen or others. But that's what this is for, is to hire them to basically put the design together for 1A so we can bid it in February.
So up to this point, we've just been kind of operating under that agreement for the water portion, and now we've kind of separated out stormwater and sanitary. But this is all back to that RD water project, but we want to address all the issues in the streets and the street while we're there. And this is the agreement with Banner to engineer that sanitary and stormwater stuff. And then I assume the street above it, street just kind of happens with these water and storm sewer.
By the time you do it all, it's all the streets.
But we're not going to have an agreement for streets, right? Streets just going to be incorporated into the
They
water
combined
and
them here.
wastewater.
They're supposed to be split out in the PER, was my understanding.
For costs, correct?
So that we can separate general fund from sewer fund, correct?
Right.
So this service order is lumped together in one, but they'll be better split out in the PER.
But we didn't have all our actual cost realized until like August, right? Is that when Banner gave us that information? Because we've been doing assessments of that HydroClean sewer
Correct.
camera stuff, and then determining what needed to be replaced and what we could reline and what had to be dug out.
And they had to be far enough along on the plans to know what we had to do with the storm sewers.
Are we there on both those things, storm sewers and sewer?
Yes.
Yes.
For the RD project?
Yes.
That RD water project is really driving this.
And
we're doing all this.
I wasn't sure we were done with Cameron yet.
Yeah.
But in saying that, that's been the desire, at least as I understand from the commission, for quite a while now. When we do a street project, we want to do everything go right. Don't tear that street up. So that's what we're doing here.
And you have approved, if I may, you have approved all pieces of that since the beginning, but remembering that none of this was in the budget. When we budgeted for 2019, it was a little too early for this, so none of this is in the budget. So as of just last week, we have expended a little over $500,000 on all of these pieces of the RD project so far. So I just don't want there to be any surprise or any heart failure when I come to you with a supplemental budget. And the RD portion of the supplemental budget within the next few months is probably going to be right under $1 million.
So under our funding agreement, we said that we would contribute $500,000 local share, and then RD would cover the rest through loan and grant and start paying that loan off when the project's
The water
done.
piece.
So we'll get to a point where, well, it's going to be an Imers court for figuring out. We're going to, at some point, we'll get interim financing, where we'll borrow money and pay it out to our contractors. And then once the project's done, RD writes us a check to pay that off.
But as much as we can self-fund, as we are trying to
Right.
do, we won't have to realize the interest expense on the interim financing. So
Yeah,
doing as
and
much
we're
of this
not
as we
making
can.
much money on our money sitting in the banks. We might as well put it to use. That's why we bring it in to begin with.
Agreed.
May I, if you are supportive here, can we keep this consistent and have your motion please be at a cost not to exceed the 127.8, which is reflected on page, I don't know what number, this page here, your breakdown? With funds to come from the respective general and sewer cash fund balances, please.
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any further comment, discussion? Not seeing any. All in favor, signify by aye.
Hold on, you guys, no, we can, do you want more information on the RD project? I mean, we're meeting all the time, I don't want to leave you in the dark, but I don't want to belabor the
I'm
point.
happy with it.
Okay.
Keep the foot on the gas pedal, and I appreciate you working on it.
Thank you.
Honestly, that's.
Yeah, this is, even prior, I'm glad you said that, and I'm also glad you said that, because I remember sitting at this table one night and talking about fun things to do, and we don't get to do the fun things we'd like to do, but this is left to us, so let's get to it. And then the RD project came up.
I think the fun part's driving on the new street.
Skateboarding or.
But
Lot of
this is
skateboards
an
on those
important
streets.
piece that we're doing here. So,
Anyway, sorry for interrupting there, but
Nope.
thank you.
I appreciate you keeping on top of it. Just if something comes up, then let us know.
Okay. All in favor, signify by aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carried. Number 6, consider extension request for sidewalk improvement 2019, Lot H1 and Lot 6, Block 5, Clark and McGibbon addition. Chad?
Yes, thank you, Your Honor, and Commission. Included in the agenda packet is a correspondence from Adam Foland, who's the owner of the property at 222 North Chicago. That project is, that property is on the area that was selected to install sidewalks this year in 2019. Mr. Foland had recently acquired this property and plans to accomplish, as he'd indicated in his correspondence here, to build a new twin home there. And so it is discussed in our resolution for these sidewalk assessments that if there's an ongoing construction project, it specifically says that that is grounds for extensions or delays in it. Yeah, nonetheless, I don't believe it's discretionary or administrative, so I err on the side of bringing this forth for you all to consider offering such an extension. I think Mr. Foland had requested that be a 1-year extension, and I can stand by for questions. I will note that a similar type request was done in 2014 for a 2-year delay, almost a similar identical project where somebody was building a multi-unit dwelling on an old lot, and it was granted for a 2-year extension at that time.
He's
So
asking for 1 year?
Pardon?
He's asking for 1 year?
Yes, sir.
It makes perfect sense to
Yeah.
grant this.
Why put in new sidewalk and then tear it up, driving all the equipment
Right.
over it, so. I'll make a motion, we do the extension request for sidewalk improvement 2019 for the lot as labeled in item number 6.
second.
We got a motion and a second. Any further discussion, comment? Not. All in favor, signify by aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, nay. Motion carried. Number 7, declare a surplus property and approve transfer to another political subdivision, Octane Fitness Elliptical Pro XL. Jen, do you?
Mr. Hanson up at the community center simply has an old elliptical Pro XL that he would like to give to the Ramona School, I believe it is. As per SDCL 6.5, we can do the same. We need no appraisal, no publication. We don't even have to appraise it, but Mr. Hanson says it is worth nothing, and we are glad to let them use it.
You okay with that, Bob?
Yeah. Need a motion?
Yes, please.
Okay. I'll make a motion to declare surplus property and approve the transfer to another political subdivision, Octane Fitness Elliptical Pro XL.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any further comment, discussion? Yes. If not, all in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carried. Is there any public comment?
Nothing
No.
tonight, sir?
Any announcements?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
City crews have completed the flood debris cleaning up, the second pass, so to speak. Okay? If you've driven around, things are looking pretty good compared to where we were 2-3 weeks ago, that's for certain. So they have completed the second pass. We are picking up appliances in the second pass, including water heaters and those kinds of things. If we missed anything, there are some things still to do. For the most part, we've got it. If there are things to do, please call the Public Works Department, and we'll take care of that. Okay? But at this point, we have come a long ways. Appliances need to be emptied to ensure collection. This was a problem in a couple situations where the item had been moved out. There was a lot of content still in it. They have rotted. They're pretty hard to move. I've had that happen before when I worked at an appliance store, and it is what to do with it is a real question. So if people still have, if somebody has an appliance that has stuff in it, please get it out of there, get it in the garbage or something. But they need to be emptied to ensure collection. So we did have a couple of situations, I believe, where we left them and asked people to clear them out, get them cleared out for us. So, and then we would come back and take the appliance itself. The restricted use site, West of Town, will be open for extended hours through October 5th. I'm not sure that's October 5th. Beginning on Monday, October 7th, the restricted use site will return to normal hours of operation. There it is. That's what I'm looking. So up until the 5th, we're leaving it open for persons as long as it's stuff that is a result of the flooding, and that's not only the city of Madison folks, but county-wide. Okay? We want to make sure that because some of the folks at the lakes have been able to get into their places to get them cleaned out. So we'll leave the restricted use site open. We'll extend that to October 5th. And then on Monday, October 7th, the restricted use site will return to normal hours of operation. Monday through Thursday, 1:30 to 4, and Friday and Saturday 9 to 1.
Are they going to be self-charging? I mean,
after the 7th, we'll go back to charging.
We'll go back to charging.
Yes, right.
Okay.
Lake County residents will be allowed to drop flood debris free of charge. That was the next thing, actually.
Okay.
Free of charge at the restricted use site. Through Saturday, I'm going to back up here. The restricted use site will be open to extended hours through October 5th. So it's going to be Friday through Monday, 8 to noon and 1 to 4, and Saturday 9 to 1. Beginning the 7th, we'll go 1:30 to 4, Monday through Thursday, and Friday through Saturday 9 to 1. In our discussion today, we decided that Lake County residents will be allowed, and that includes the city of Madison, all persons in Lake County, to drop flood debris stuff free of charge at the restricted use site through October 12th. I apologize. I knew I was getting that right. So through October 12th. This is flood debris only, and all of the debris is subject to normal charge of $10 per cubic yard. And some persons were probably left with electrical things, electrical components in their yard that we did pick up. Those things can be taken to the electronics drop-off. We won't transport them there, but if there was an old TV somebody hauled out of their basement, or a stereo or something like that, those can be taken to the electronics drop-off October 19th from 9 to 3 at the recycling center. Okay?
October 19th,
October 19th,
9 to 3.
9 to 3. So if there are some people that are wondering why certain electronics were left in their yard, that's why. That's where they belong. Okay? And we won't be hauling those, but it is a free drop-off.
Do you have a group lined up to work that?
Have you heard anything yet?
I have not, it's on this week's list to make sure it gets the agenda for.
Okay.
Usually we're pretty good, so,
Thank you.
yeah. Big question, but
Kelly,
Okay.
two
Yeah.
questions.
yeah.
So we're done going around physically
Yeah.
picking them up, but if they need an appliance picked up, they can call.
And
Okay,
there are a couple of places that we have some other things to pick up yet.
Okay.
Debris to pick up, beyond just appliances. But if somebody, I had a call today, somebody had an appliance, had a water heater that hadn't been picked up yet, so you guys went and got it.
okay, so they can still
Yeah.
call it.
Yeah.
Um,
All Public Works.
Okay, and the other thing, driving around, I know a lot of people set out paint cans, and I know you don't take them.
We don't take those,
And
yeah.
is there any, where can they take them?
They can just Sioux Falls,
Okay.
it's on
Household hazardous waste, is it up?
Hazardous Waste, it's down.
North Cliff.
South Cliff.
Right up.
North Cliff, right across from the
Maintenance,
Sioux Falls Department
Public Works, basically,
Transportation in Sioux
transportation.
Falls City.
Yeah.
Park?
We don't pick those up. We tried to separate those out
Yep.
and leave them for people when we were picking up debris, and there were a lot in there too. But that would be a problem for Sioux.
And my understanding is you drive up, show them your license,
As long as you can just show that you're a resident of Madison, Lake County, then
and they'll take it
they'll
out.
take it. Yeah.
Okay,
And any hazardous waste, which is a lot of times paint, those kinds of things.
And electronics.
Yeah, they'll also take some of those too. But we have our own electronics drop off there. And we coordinate with them on that. That was one of the reasons when we had to cancel our electronics drop off in April. We were gonna try to reschedule it, but we couldn't get a crew from down there because they sent some folks up to help us. And they couldn't get a crew together fast enough to come up and help us here for the reschedule, so we should do it to the October one.
any further announcements? Thank you, Kelly.
Yeah, I hope that's, check the website if it's not clear.
Yep. They can call me. I can call the Giant, as long as I have the information, I can distribute it.
And I want to thank people too for the patience. It was it seemed like a long haul, but you guys did a good job. Hopefully we'll get reimbursed for some of that.
Yep.
Hopefully.
See nothing under executive session. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Got a motion and a second. All in favor, signify by aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carried. Brad, got a minute?
Yeah.